It is time to go over my top 5 times that Waka was the R word, also known as being unkind to the Al Bhed. There was not always a time that Waka was unkind to the Al Bhed. He is a very likable character in the beginning, and what's most surprising to me is that his distaste comes later in the game. In fact, the scenes together make up about 10 minutes of cutscenes, which compared to a 12-hour cutscene game is very little time. So let's talk about some of these most memorable scenes. Moment number 5. Waka asked, "How can you let some Al Bhed kidnap you?" Waka says this during the tournament, and Waka says it in a very tired way, and it doesn't seem very aggressive. But Lulu, right before, is priming Tidus in the audience that Waka doesn't have much love for the Al Bhed. Tidus finds out that Yuna is half Al Bhed and that Riku is an Al Bhed. Prior to the tournament, Waka has made no mention of the Al Bhed. But it seems that Yuna being kidnapped has spawned this dormant hate. Moment number 4. When Waka kicks a machina weapon and hurts himself. The funny thing about this moment is, of course he's gonna hurt himself. That is a giant metal contraption, but his hate is so powerful that he decides to do it anyway. In that moment, Lulu says that Waka hates Al Bhed weapons because Chapu used an Al Bhed weapon, but Waka in that moment says that has nothing to do with it. This is very effective character storytelling when the character themselves is in denial about their own reasons and that they actually have good reason to believe that he hates the contraptions. He calls them sacrilegious contraptions. So basically what he's saying is that his reason for believing it is because it is the will of Yevon and it is just the correct way of thinking told to him. Sounds perfectly logical, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Moment number 3. Waka calls the Al Bhed sandblasted grease monkeys. The term grease monkey is slang for an automotive mechanic, which makes a lot of sense for the Al Bhed. But the sandblasted part, I find that confusing because even though the Al Bhed are hiding in home, they're hiding on Beaconell Island, a desert. But Waka doesn't know that they're hiding on Beaconell, so I'm not sure where he got the sandblasted part from. Either way, it's a very apt derogatory term to refer to the Al Bhed. In that moment, they try to kidnap Yuna again, and Waka goes through several iterations about why they could possibly do that. Maybe they were jealous about the tournament, or he thinks that they're mad about Operation Mihen. Waka seems to be coming up with ideas that he cannot fathom himself, characterizing the Al Bhed as evil and having some kind of revenge scheme that has to do with jealousy or some kind of bad characteristic. You know, clearly he's not seeing the Al Bhed as real people. Moment number 2. Waka accuses Orin of being an Al Bhed after Orin asks Riku how to use an Al Bhed machine. This is perfectly uninformed because Orin does not know how to use a contraption. He does not have green eyes, he doesn't have any of the clothing, and yet Waka is paranoid that everyone around him is now Al Bhed because of the secrets that have been kept from him. After finding about Riku, he still has a quite negative view and is convinced that they are the people who bring about all of the sin in the world. Now that the whole group has been keeping a secret, they are all suspect, and maybe they are all enemies of Waka at that point, even though he was just so lovable and friendly in the beginning. Who doesn't love someone who is just more spicy? He livens up the party. Moment number 1. This has to be everyone's absolute favorite moment, even better than grease monkeys. It's the All Riku says is there is something that she wants to share while they're on Beaconell Desert. And Waka gives a very disturbing zoom glare. And he is showing quite severe suspicion of her. Whatever she has to say, it cannot be good, and it has to be with ill intention, and it's going to probably bring about more sin and more discomfort for Waka. Wouldn't we all be giving those really harsh glares if we were in those situations? But you know what? Just moments later, Waka ends up in home, sees the massacre, and sees Riku lose a loved one. And I think in that moment, Waka remembered his own loss of Chapu and was able to see that Riku experiences loss just the same as he experiences loss. And in that moment was able to see Riku as a human being. That is why when they are in home and they reveal the Summoner's Sanctum, Waka's like, I know why you did it. For the first time, he understands their motivations and is able to put himself in those shoes. I would ask you to tell me what your favorite top moment is, but what I really want to know, if you think this arc and this theme in the game is effective and how this really translates into real life or doesn't. As a reminder, I stream every Wednesday and Friday night on Twitch, and I would love to see you there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.